Welcome to the UK Investor Magazine podcast, the latest on shares, markets and investments, now available on your Amazon Alexa.
Hello and welcome to the UK Investor Magazine podcast, now also available on the UK Investor Magazine mobile app. For today's podcast, we're going to be delving into Adsure Services' recent full year results. We're going to be digging through the metrics. We're going to be looking at their growth over the period and what those key drivers were for the uptick in revenue, profit and EBITDA during that period. And to do that, we're very kindly joined today by Vicky Davies, who is the CFO of Adsure Services. Vicky, thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm delighted to talk to you today about our results that we posted on the 11th of August.
Regular readers of the UK Investor Magazine will be aware that Vicky presented at one of our virtual conferences very recently, focusing on the TIA Insight AI tool. But as we said at the beginning, this podcast is very much going to be focusing on the results, and strong results they were. But before we get into it, please, Vicky, could you give us an introduction, first of all, to yourself, but as well as Adsure Services, please?
Yes, thanks, Jonathan. So, as you mentioned, I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Adsure Services PLC. I was lucky to be given this role just prior to listing. Before that, I had a long career at TIA, Adsure Services subsidiary, working initially as an auditor, promoted through the company to operations director, where I became responsible for all our back office services delivery. As part of my role prior to that as a director in the Welsh team, I was successful in growing our client base significantly in the Wales and West area, from initially 4 clients to 54 clients when I passed over the portfolio. Adsure Services PLC listed in October 2023 as the parent company to TIA Limited. TIA Limited has a long trading history. We've recently celebrated our 30th anniversary. TIA provides business assurance and consultancy services to the UK public sector, primarily with key markets being healthcare, local government and central government, education and housing. TIA was originally formed as a IMP company to provide internal audit services to 6 housing associations in London, and grew from that point in 1995 to the listed company that TIA is the main part of now, Adsure Services PLC.
Thank you very much. So let's get straight into the numbers now, Vicky, because the full year results were very encouraging. Looking here, there was an increase in revenue again. So could you please run through the increases in revenue for the period, and what were the key drivers of revenue increases over the last year?
Yes, thanks, Jonathan. So revenue increased to 10 million from 9.3 million in 23-24, an increase of 7.7%, so 716,000 roughly. And this was in line with the objectives in the second year of our corporate plan. The drivers for the revenue growth included several additional term contracts from our core markets of healthcare, housing, local and central government and education, the planned expansion of our advisory practice, which generated additional revenue from existing clients and new clients in our core sectors, and a small expansion in the delivery of our services to private sector clients. We delivered additional work in our diverse range and portfolio of services, including digital services, grant audit, anti-crime services, and core internal audit and ICT audit.
Thank you. So I want to stay on the revenue and growth side of things, but take a step back very quickly from the full year results and look at some of the announcements that Adsure have made this year in relation to the Labour government and their changes to efficiency and their big efficiency drive across government and of course local government and other government funded organisations. This of course is going to be a big driver of growth for Adsure going forward, Vicky. So it would be good if you could explain to listeners, what exactly these changes mean for Adsure, and how excited are you about these in terms of what it means for the business going forward?
Thanks, Jonathan. Well, we're really excited. As you know, the Labour government has taken several significant steps to drive efficiency in the public sector. These include the introduction of the Government Efficiency Framework, which aims to maximise output for the minimum input and ensure that any money is spent on things that most effectively achieve the intended outcomes. We have seen over the past 30 years of trading as TIA that any government changes which drive efficiency in the public sector have a positive impact on our business. Where government-funded organisations are looking to save money or drive efficiencies, internal audit or assurance services are a valuable resource because sometimes controls are seen as easy things to cut and drive those efficiencies. And we can help clients by ensuring that they have effective controls in place to continue to deliver their effective services and manage their budgets appropriately. We're a trusted advisor and we can support our clients through the significant change by capitalising on our experience across the relevant sectors in which we work and share best practice. We believe Adsure is really well placed to continue to save the UK taxpayer millions of pounds by facilitating cost and operational efficiencies for publicly funded bodies. We've talked before about our newly developed AI large language model Tier Insight, which is on track for deployment in 25-26 and will further our capacity to assist our public sector clients to drive efficiency and savings. And overall, we see these efficiency changes as positive developments that align with Adshore's growth and capabilities, and we hope to help our clients turn these challenges, which no doubt it will be for them, into opportunities wherever we can.
Looking here at the financial highlights from Adshore's full year results, of course, we've touched on revenue. Looking at operating profit, up 61.4% during the period, 74% increase in profit before tax, cash balance still strong above £1 million. EBITDA increased 35%. But there is one here which I think is particularly interesting, which I'd like to ask some questions on, and that is EBITDA margin increased from 9.4% up to 11.8% during that period. Vicky, what were the key drivers of this? What was this improvement in EBITDA margin a result of? And do you expect any further improvements in the EBITDA margin going forward?
So thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, as you said, it's a modest increase from 9.4% in 23-24 to 11.8% in 24-25. But that is a result of a number of different things. Firstly, it's a result of our higher staff utilisation and increased margins for the work that we've delivered. The second key reason was lower operating expenses and depreciation costs driven from internal efficiencies and savings in our operational contracts. And we believe there are more savings to come in direct costs through efficiencies in our operating model, through our investment in technology and use of Tier Insight. And additionally, our investment in technology and use of AI will help us improve the efficiency of our back office services, resulting in further modest but important savings in operating costs as we seek to continually improve.
We touched on growth at the beginning, and that's something I'd like to go back to now. We've obviously looked at what the growth drivers were during the last year, but I'd like to look forward now to the year ahead, Vicky, if I may. And where do you see the biggest sources of growth for Adsure Services and of course TIA in the 2025-2026 financial year?
So firstly, we have a very strong sector lead model now in place, with 4 sector leads, each dedicated to maximising value in a tailored way in their respective sectors. This breadth and depth of knowledge by our expert sector leads in our core markets is an absolute core driver for our growth in the year ahead. We've discussed before the uneven spread of clients that we have by sector across the country, and we see significant growth potential in all regions with this levelling up of the client base. Secondly, a source of growth is refining our bid strategies. As we've also talked about before, a large proportion of our income historically has been derived from term contracts, which typically are 3 to 5 years. A really good recent example where we've seen past efforts come to fruition this tender season is in the education sector. We've been increasingly able to turn our second place finishes to first in that sector by sharing more information about us, and our innovative model for delivery has definitely been part of that success. And finally, it's worth noting at this point that TIA has had a positive 25-26 tender season with our best conversion rate yet. We've also been successful, as I mentioned earlier, in winning additional advisory work for digital assurance and grant compliance in both existing and new clients, and we expect this to continue over the year. At this stage, I'm really encouraged by our order book, and the outlook for the year looks good. And this, coupled with the government changes we recently discussed, requiring many clients to seek additional assurance as they move through the uncertainty, leaves us really well placed for the future and the year ahead.
Thank you very much, Vicky. So the dividend increased again, 15% increase for the final dividend, up to 1.14 pence. Put that into context, the yield on Adsure Services now, historically, if you take the mid price of the share price at the moment, is around 7 or 8%. So a very attractive yield there for Adsure Services. But Vicky, why are dividends so important to Adsure? It really makes you stand out on the Aquis stock exchange as a dividend payer. But why, for you as a CFO, is it so important to keep this dividend increasing?
I think, as you said, Jonathan, a real positive for us is that we do stand out with our dividend policy on the Aquis growth market, which is really good. But the real driver has been the dividend for the year was based on our historic policy, and it was in place for the 24-25 results. A large majority of Adsure shareholders have been shareholders and supporters of Adsure and previous to that tier over a significant period pre-listing, and the dividend policy remains to recognise and reward the loyalty. For 25-26, we're looking at continuing with a progressive dividend policy.
Perfect. Thank you. So thank you very much for that comprehensive explanation of the financials that were released earlier in August, Vicky. To finish off now, and this is, I know, something that investors always want to know, but when you're looking at the year ahead, what can you outline for investors to look forward to in the coming year?
As we've discussed, Jonathan, we would like to see the continued growth. We're going to be excited to share further details of our Tier Insight project and other technological innovations. I'm looking forward to positive interim results and application of our progressive dividend policy.
Thank you very much. So just a note to listeners, if you'd like to find out more about Adsure Services, you can visit their website. They have an investor hub there. There'll be a link through to that in the notes to this podcast. Also on the Aquis Stock Exchange website, there's more information there. And Adsure Services trades under the ticker of ADS. So Vicky, thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for inviting me, Jonathan, and catch up with you again soon.
Yes, looking forward to that. Looking forward to hearing more news from Adsure as it comes through. And thank you very much to everyone for listening. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the UK Investor Magazine podcast. Please do share the podcast, and we really value any reviews and comments you leave us in your chosen podcast player. The views presented by the hosts and guests of the UK Investor Magazine podcast are in no way investment advice, and please remember all investment involves risk.